Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Ross-Ade Stadium for the Boilermakers' next to last home game of the 2023 season. Purdue against Minnesota today. Kickoff shortly after 3:30 Eastern Time. Tim Newton along with Pete Quinn and Kelly Kitchel. All right, Pete, the Boilermakers on a 4-game losing skid. This would be a good day to break it, start a 3-game winning streak to end the season. Let's talk about what Purdue will need to do today to get back in the win column.
We saw last week they played a very, very good Michigan team, arguably the best team in the country, and I saw a lot of positive things. I think the defense is starting to figure some things out. We got some major playmakers on defense. We've got some playmakers on offense. You know, we've got some really good running backs. We've got some high-level players at the wide receiver. We got a great tight end. We've got the tools necessary to win these last 3 games. Today, I think the key to victory is for our playmakers to make plays. It all starts on offense with Hudson Card, our quarterback. He's been playing through injury. We talked about it extensively. But I think today, in order for Purdue to win this football game, our playmakers, our stars, need to play like stars.
Let us know, by the way, watching on Facebook, where you're tuning in today, and if you have questions for us. Kitch, you've been on teams that have won games in a row and teams that have lost games in a row. How do you change the mindset? What switch flips to get your team back in the win column?
Something great's got to happen, and sometimes it just happens. Sometimes you got to create it yourself, right? So you got to find a way. The way we've done it, you know, is you try to find that play or that series or something that you feel just great about. You know, either throwing passes that are almost 100% completions just to get things going, right? You want to find a way to get some positive momentum going. And I'm talking more specifically on the offense, just because the offense has just really struggled to get in a rhythm. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you see sparks here and there, but they just haven't been able to put drives together, first downs together. But it's something's, you know, I don't. If I knew the secret sauce to that, man, to get it going, I'd be coaching other places in high school probably. But you got to try to just find a way to get sparks so guys have confidence. And the big thing is you got to keep everybody together. Yeah. Honestly, that's once bad things happen, you go on a 4-game skid. People start blaming each other. You know, things start happening. You have defense that can blame the offense. I don't know if that's happening here. I haven't heard anything like that. I don't think it is, but that happens a lot of times. So you got to try to make sure that you keep guys together, keep the team together, and keep believing in each other.
One of the things that Coach Walters has talked about, Pete, is getting that first down in a drive. We've seen way too many times this season the Boilermakers have gone 3 and out on offense, which puts your defense right back on the field. You can get that first down. Now you can go tempo if you want. You can get things going. They've just got to get that first down to get every drive kick started.
Yeah, one of the most glaring statistics when you look at this Purdue football team is third down conversions. It's 36%, and we're way too often in a situation where it's 3rd and long. We need some 3rd and shorts. But this good news is Minnesota is almost identical offensively. They're about 36% as well. So I think Ryan Walters is the right guy, and I truly believe that. I'm not just saying that to be a team player. I'm a big Ryan Walters fan, and he's going to figure it out. But I was talking to some, and I'm going to name drop a little bit, but Matt Mitrione and Matt Light were at our tailgate, and we were talking about this stuff. Those guys know a little bit about football. And I was telling them, I said, I know he's the right guy. And when Joe Tiller and I became buds, and him and I used to talk, he's one of the wisest human beings I ever knew. Joe Tiller once said, people asked him, why were you so successful? How could you win 9 games when Purdue hadn't had a winning season in years? You come in your first year, you win 9 games. And he goes, 100% is because I brought my entire staff. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to coach my coaches. Ryan Walters didn't have that. Yeah. He brought in a staff that these guys, and they're all capable, they're all smart, they all know football, but Ryan Walters is trying to figure out his staff as much as he's trying to figure out his team. What's our strengths? What's our weaknesses? And he'll figure it out. And I think the defense is a little bit ahead of the offense right now, but they'll get there. I'm very confident.
As you look, Kitch, at the standard that you want Purdue football to reach, there are 3 guys right now on defense that I think are playing at that standard. Nick Scorton and Kadron Jenkins up front, Dylan Thieneman in the back half. Now you've got to get everybody else up to that level.
Yeah, those guys definitely are. And I think Pete said it right. The defense is getting better every week. We're seeing them progress. Even the interior three, they're playing at a high level. Teams are struggling to run. Michigan's got one of the most potent run offenses in the country, and we held them.
Yeah.
Probably their lowest. I think it was their lowest run output of the
First time they've
year.
been outgained on the ground all season.
Right. And so it's, I think those front six with the linebackers in there are doing a great job. And, and we're keeping guys in the box to do that. And the corners and safeties are they're battling out there on an island a lot of times, and they're going to figure it out. I mean, they're putting them in tough positions where they're going to be fine. I think the defense is there for sure, or getting there, and we're seeing them progress for sure. Like I said, offensively, and I'll tell you, when Purdue has been very good, and Pete, I know you'll agree on this, but we went to the Rose Bowl in 2000. Those 5 offensive linemen didn't miss a snap, right? Unless we were up a bunch of points and they let us twos get in the game and have a little fun in there. Matt Light, Brandon Gorn, Chuck Jacoby, Ian Allen, and G. Murskowski. Those guys didn't miss a snap. Right, and those were all NFL guys, and we've lost
at least 5 years
right.
in the NFL,
and we've lost both starting tackles. You had Gus Hartwig came off an injury. You've lost a guard, a couple. I mean, we've lost almost everybody up front, and that's a huge piece. I mean, you're playing with guys that you weren't expecting to have to be able to go this year and up front, and they're battling, and they're going to get better. The more you play, the better they'll get. But it's not what we expected this year. When you have those kind of injuries up front, it's going to do a number on your offense.
I'm going to emphasize something he just said. The best season I had as a player was in 1979. We went 10-2, and we beat Tennessee in a bowl game. We beat Notre Dame. We beat Michigan. We beat Oregon. We lost to a Minnesota team that was 4-7. 100% of the reason we lost that game is because what Kitch just said. My 4 years as a starter, an offensive lineman missing a game was unheard of. But in this particular game, our right tackle, all Big Ten tackle, Steve McKenzie, Steve missed that game. He injured his knee during the week, and we had to put in a true freshman who had ended up becoming a great player, but he's a true freshman. And I think Herman was sacked 8 times in 1979. 7 times in that game because he couldn't block. Somebody once told me it's Carl Mecklenburg. I don't know if it was or not, but whoever it was, that guy was on Herm's, and we got upset by a 4-7 team, and it kept us out of the Rose Bowl. That was one player. Ryan Walters has lost like 5.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of depth. We saw last week when Daniel Johnson had to come out of the game. Gus Hartwig actually had to flank out to play tackle. That was out of necessity because there are no other tackles right now that they feel are ready to play. So.
But let me add something you just said. There's not a whole lot of depth. I would change that there's not a whole lot of proven depth.
Yes.
My guess is there's some kids on that team that are ready. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
And that's the good thing about what's going on. We're seeing who can play and who can't play.
Well, the Boilermakers have a lot to play for today, but so does Minnesota. If Minnesota wins, they become bowl eligible, Kitch, and they're a team that is a typical Minnesota team. They're going to run the football. They're going to play pretty good defense. They've got a great safety in Tyler Newbin, and they're just going to wait for you throughout the day to make a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, it's what they've done forever. But the difference this year is they don't have monster O-linemen like they've had in the past. The 6'9", 400-pound kid. That's one of the largest human beings outside of Zach Edey that I think I've ever stood next to when I was on the field next to him that one time. And they don't have as big and imposing, and they're on the 5th string running back. I mean, they've been decimated by injury as well. They've had some issues with some of their other running backs putting the ball on the ground, and they've got a converted defensive player that's coming over into the backfield now, and he's running the ball for them. So it's they're trying to find themselves as well, right? So you don't really know what Minnesota team, is going to show up. Is it going to be that power that we've seen in the past? Are they still, but it's not like it's a vaunted offense that we've seen in the past. So it could be this could be a big day for Purdue's defense.
Every game they've played, though, Pete, in the Big Ten West this year has gone down to the final possession. You would look at this one and say this one looks like a toss-up coming in.
It does, and Las Vegas agrees. I think it's a 1 point. I don't even know who's
still
favored.
bet on these?
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know if it's true or not. But it's a toss-up. It's who plays, but Minnesota's had their way at Purdue. What are they, 8-2 the last 10 games?
Yeah.
10 games against us. And somehow they figured it out. One thing I'm going to be interested in watching today is when Coach Brahm was here and we had that high-powered offense, that great passing offense, I thought P.J. Fleck did something brilliant that I didn't see anybody do since. When his offense was on the field, every single play, they let the time expire till like 1 second before they snapped. It threw our defense off. It kept our offense off the field. I don't know if they do that for other teams, but it'll be interesting to see if they employ that today.
Well, I can tell you they must do some of it because they're number 2 in the Big Ten in time of possession. They hold the ball 32 minutes and 40 seconds a game, and that gives them more snaps. And as you mentioned, it also keeps the other team's offense off the field.
Yeah, if you can grind and get those 5 yards, 6 yards, and keep getting those first downs, that's tough.
I think today the key to success for both teams is how successful they are in the red zone. If you look at Minnesota coming in, Minnesota has scored on 26 of 28 red zone opportunities, but only 15 touchdowns. They've had 21 field goal attempts. Their guy has made 18 field goals. Purdue, I believe, this season has made 5 field goals the entire season.
I was going to say 6, but I think you're right. I think it's 5.
The Boilermakers, by the way, are 20 of 29 in the red zone, but only 16 touchdowns. So they're at about 55%. So the thing is, you get down to the goal line today, you got inside the 20. You need to get 7 instead of 3.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's going to be one of those games that the players that and the biggest takeaway from last week, which makes me excited about the future of Purdue football, they're playing a very, very good Michigan team on the road. And they got down big early. Never saw a kid quit.
Yeah.
I mean, those kids kept fighting to the very end, and that's all I'm looking for at this stage. Because frankly, whether we go 3-0 the next 3 games or 0-3, at the end of the day, it doesn't make a huge difference.
Right.
But it makes a huge difference in how the team feels about themselves, makes a huge difference into going to workouts into the off-season, spring football. So I think these games are critical, and I'd rather be a first-year coach with a lot of turnover and a lot of new coaches in the position we are than a program where I think Fleck's in his 7th year, and they're right there with us. I mean, they're very, very similar teams.
Yeah. The Boilermakers, after giving up a couple of early touchdowns last week, to settle down defensively. But again, I think you have to go back to if the offense can get on the board early. How long has it been since Purdue's played with a lead? It seems like forever.
It feels like it's been since Illinois. Maybe it does feel like a long time. And you're right. That second quarter was as good defensively as I've said. It was a 6-6 game in the second quarter. It was this is a battle. We've got guys that are out here battling, and I loved what I saw out of there on especially on offense or on defense. I mean, and they put themselves in a position to keep them out of the end zone, to make them earn. They were having to earn everything. And, once I think that the Michigan did a great job of scouting some things and doing, getting those early scores with the motions and different stuff. And then once we figured out what they were doing, we were able to take some of that away. And I thought the defense really, really settled in. They put a few on late in the game to make it look, a little bit more. But I mean, that was a battle, and even on offense, the offensive line they were in there grinding, they were battling. We were trying to get yards. I mean, like I said, it's this offensive line. I keep going back to it, but I keep going to thinking if it was when we were playing, it was like myself and Kelly Butler and David Owen, who we were all able to play by the time we were juniors and seniors, but we weren't ready as freshmen and sophomores to play in the Big Ten. These guys are having to step up and do that, and they'll get there. They're really good football players. They just may not be ready right now, or at least, like Pete said, they don't believe that they're ready right now, even though they're talented enough.
Yeah, I guarantee you there's some that are ready, and you made a great point just now about how good a job Michigan did scouting us. Yeah. It's almost like they knew what our signs were. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Where did we go? We went 17 minutes.
You got to make a comment.
Record.
Yep.
We're going to talk about our picks to click at the very end, but a couple of names to keep in mind for Minnesota. Tyler Nubin might be one of the best safeties, not just in the Big Ten, but in the country. He and Cam Allen, with 12 career interceptions, are tied for the most of any active FBS player. And he's a guy, tremendous hitter, Kitch. When you see a big hit today in the secondary, you're not going to have to hunt for the number. It's probably going to be number 27.
And they talk about him like we talk about Sanusi Kane. Sometimes when you can hear a hit and you know who it is, and he's the same way. Sometimes when you just know who that was that laid that stick on somebody, and he's that kind of guy. And he's great in coverage as well.
We did find out their top linebacker linebacker and probably their top prospect, pro prospect other than Newman, Cody Lindenberg will not play today. He missed the first 7 games, played the last 2, but he's going to be out again today. And that means a lot of the onus on that defensive side is going to go to one of the all-name teams in the all-name teams in the Big Ten this season, Maverick Baranowski, who is their leading tackler, and you're going to see him around the football a lot. He wears number 6.
Yeah, they got a kid on their team too. I'm going to do a shameless personal plug. The best player I played with, him and I were co-captains in 1980, was a guy named Tom Kingsbury. You remember Kingsbury?
St. Rita High School.
St. Rita High School. His nephew, Matt Kingsbury, another Boilermaker, plays for Minnesota. I begged Purdue to recruit him. They didn't recruit him, so he went to Minnesota. And I don't even know if he made the trip, but if he's out on the field, I will be talking a lot about his Matt Kingsbury, because Kingsbury is just a huge name for me in Purdue football.
Now, on the offensive side, it seems like Tanner Morgan had played at Minnesota for about 15 seasons, but his eligibility is finally done. Ethan Kaliakmanis is the quarterback of the Gophers, only completing 54% of his passes. He's been a little bit up and down this year. He's battled through some injuries, but the one guy to watch for offensively is Daniel Jackson, number 9. He has 38 catches this year and 7 touchdowns, which is 3rd best in the Big Ten. He is their big play guy.
He is, and the quarterback was a Gatorade Player of the Year. He was a 4-star, highly recruited quarterback. He's big. He can run. And that's what scares me the most about this offense, not his passing ability. Their passing game has been somewhat anemic, but he can run the football, and Purdue struggle with quarterbacks that can run.
I mentioned the kicker before, Kitch. Dragon Kesic is 18 of 21. He's got a 54-yard field goal, but just to show what kind of leg he has, he's kicked the ball off 45 times this year, 38 touchbacks. They don't get a whole lot of return yardage against them.
You know, it's funny, and I haven't seen him kick off. I know the stats on that, but I'm interested to see if it's like what everybody else is doing, trying to kick it a mile in the air and making you. I mean, these kids are doing a terrific job. What they've taught these kids to do is just kick it as high as they can right at the goal line, and either if you catch it and try to return it, you're going to get inside the 15 because everybody's on you right away, or if he's putting it through the end zone.
We saw Wisconsin do that earlier. We saw Michigan do that last week, and they have a terrific. By the way, we're just tracking other games. It's already been a wild day in the Big Ten today. Indiana had a big lead against Illinois. That's now 27-26 Hoosiers early in the 3rd quarter. Maryland and Nebraska are tied at 7, and Michigan, after 3 quarters, leads Penn State 17-9. So Jim Harbaugh not on the sidelines for the Wolverines today. They'll have a hearing on Friday to see what the status of that is. But Michigan right now going into State College, leading with 15 minutes to play. All right, we talked about some of the keys today. The Boilermakers are going to bring one of the all-time greats back to try to help them fire up the crowd. George Karlaftis is here. George got to see his younger brother play last night for West Lafayette. Now he's going to get to see another younger brother, and I understand he's going to wear a Yanni Karlaftis jersey today on the sideline, I was told.
That's pretty cool. They could be going the annals of like the Anthrops and the Bars and all these teams that had all these brothers play. But that's a good story. Came from Greece, and their father died tragically very, very young, and his mom was from Lafayette, came back to West Lafayette, and ended up at Purdue. And that was that was so important for Jeff Brom to get him to Purdue, because he was recruited nationally by everybody. And for them to get him to come here and then Yanni to follow him, that was huge for the Boilers.
Corey Palm and I taped a podcast with him yesterday that I believe will run next week, the 2021 Oregon State game. And we talked to him about the fact that Jeff Brom called and said, I need you to be the linchpin of this recruiting class. And if you remember, it was a pretty good recruiting class that came in with some pretty big names. But getting George on board, getting him convinced to come across the street from West Lafayette High School, Kitchen, that a couple of years before, it didn't look like that was going to happen.
No, George was not. I mean, obviously, they've got Purdue lineage with his grandpa playing basketball here back in the 50s. And I mean, there's a lot of Purdue ties. But George was not, it wasn't like he was going to be a Boilermaker just because it's Purdue. He was looking at everybody. I mean, Alabama was coming into our high school. Everybody was coming in to take a look at George. That was wild times when we were coaching. A lot of guys on the sidelines, but that was a big one. I mean, and a guy, it was him. David Bell, so George committed. He worked David Bell to get him here, and I mean David was getting recruited by Ohio State, and they were pushing hard for him, and George, did a good job of convincing and getting those guys to come here and putting a great recruiting class together.
George's brother plays on your offensive line at West Lafayette.
Yep.
George had a little surprise for the team last night when he came out.
Yeah, he came and talked to our kids, and it was great. You know, and George is I love it when George talks, and he was talking to him, and he's like, I'm not going to get fired up, but I'll show you something that you guys can all aspire to. And he pulls out this big old ring, you know. He got the big Super Bowl ring. I said, man, I hope we there, but yeah, we're all aspiring to get to that one. But
just trying to win a regional, George.
Right.
But yes, I would love to.
They're not giving us a ring
Bowl
tonight, but no, it was pretty cool to have him in the locker room with us and on the sideline with us. And George is a big part of our community, and it's great to have him back and be part of our program, and for sure at West Lafayette and at Purdue.
By the way, I'll give a quick plug too. The 1999 National Championship women's basketball team is back this weekend, and they will be recognized today during the game. They were recognized last night at the men's basketball game, and again tomorrow at the women's game. And a special crew, not just because they won a national championship, but because of all the things they've accomplished since
Is
then.
Carolyn back?
Carolyn is not. Unfortunately, okay. Carolyn got a call at the last minute. She has to work a game for ABC this weekend. So she's not here, but all three of her assistant coaches are here. Yukari Figs, Katie Douglas, Camille Cooper, Mackenzie Curlis, several other members of that team, and we had a great time last night, and what a special group of people that is.
I remember Carolyn, one of my fondest memories of broadcasting is when we were up in the old press box. Yeah. Carolyn never missed a game. She sat right behind me and you and watched she was a huge football fan.
I'll never forget that. I was right there in the middle of that, right? Going around campus, man. We were rolling around, and it was there were fires, there was all kinds of stuff.
And
man,
I gotta tell you, we flew home that night from San Jose, and we were kind of joking on the plane, you know, because the women's basketball crowd has tended to be an older group over the years, and a lot of families come to games. Dads, moms and dads bringing their kids, grandkids, all that. And we thought, well, yeah, I wonder if they're burning. I wonder if they're having bonfires back. And then we landed. We found out that
I was in 292 Wiley Hall watching that game, and all of a sudden we win, and we're going nuts in the hall. And I see people just lining in the streets, and we're like, let's go see what's going on. So we went out.
It was
wild.
When does the statute of limitations end on that? They may be looking at Wiley 292 today for a little leftover damage. All right, let's get back to the football game today. Let's talk picks to click here. Let's go. Kitch, I think it's your turn to start today because we're going to give him the last dibs on his last game. In fact, we might give him all the picks.
You can have them all.
Give me a pick to click for Purdue offensively today.
Offensively, I'm gonna kind of go with the duo at running back, and maybe a trio today too when you add in Dylan Downing. But I think that we're gonna have to run the football. We saw early in the game against Michigan, Tyrone Tracy had a couple early ones. We saw Maccabee break a little bit. We've got to get the running game, and we've got to get the running game just to keep that clock moving, you know, to keep things going, to keep getting first downs, keep getting positive yards. So I'm gonna go with Maccabee and Tyrone Tracy and Dylan Downing, and those three guys have got to get going and find holes. And sometimes they're gonna have to create holes maybe that aren't there, right? They're gonna have to fight through a couple tackles to get some extra yards. Defensively, man, I'll tell you, I'd love to go with the duo on that one too, but I don't want to take everybody's on that because
you're going to take the Jenkins, Skort, and Thieneman trifecta.
I think
we're just going to leave.
I know. I think we've got two. I think Jenkins and Skorton are big-time NFL prospects. I'll go with Nick Skorton today, just because it's a toss-up between those two, and I think they're both just outstanding, terrific players, and they're the best players on our team.
Your turn, sir.
On defense, I'm going to go with somebody that we don't talk enough about. And we talk a lot about Skort, and we talk a lot about Jenkins and Thieneman. We should. They're all amazing. But I have seen dramatic improvement from Cole Brevard. And I thought last week against Michigan, he looked like he belonged in that game. He looked like an NFL player last week, and I think he gets better and better every game. I know he's a great kid. I know he's got a great mom. Never met his dad, met his mom. But I think that kid has a chance to be special. And I think him and Sanusi Kane need to be talked about more. So I'm gonna pick Cole for the defense to click. And then on offense, I think I'm gonna go with our tight end. I think Aaron Miller is somebody that you know is a great player.
Yep.
And give him, maybe this is his game that he looks like he did last year. I just have a feeling it will be.
All right, on offense, I'm going to go with Deion Burks because this is a Minnesota defense that has been susceptible this year to giving up big plays, and he can be a big play guy. A guy you mentioned just now, Sanusi Kane, I think comes up today, makes a big hit, forces a big fumble, and maybe turns his football game around. So those are our picks. you can have yours at home and follow along and see who comes out the winner. The Boilermakers on the road next week to take on the Northwestern Wildcats. That game will either kick off at noon, 3:30, or 4. We'll be back here 2 weeks from today for the Old Oak and Bucket game. Mr. Quinn's last game as a Purdue broadcaster. We will try to bring some confetti or some wild party hats that we'll have along. Well, and why would that be different than any other game that we have? So for Kitch and Pete, Quinn, if you're still in the vicinity, just a few tickets left. It's a beautiful day for football. Come on out and support this football team. Today's the day we're going to break that losing streak. So Boiler up. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Boiler up.
Boiler up.